you're in here for Intro to Node-RED, I'm going to thank the ARRL for hosting this. And for asking me to present here. I've presented this presentation many, many times before. I do have a YouTube channel, so I'm going to fully disclose that. This presentation and a lot more is on my YouTube channel. If you just YouTube my call sign, AA0Z, it's over there. If you go to that website, that is probably not up. Connor, I need help putting that website up. I just changed domains, actually not domains, DNS registers. Google domains kicked me off, so I'm using Cloudflare now. But if you type in Kyle AA0Z on YouTube, you'll find my channel, and I do a whole bunch of Node-RED stuff. One of the things that I do try and make videos of are to get you guys up and running quickly with a Raspberry Pi from scratch. So I take a bunch of videos and I literally have a Raspberry Pi in one hand and an SD card in another hand, and we go step by step on getting that thing up and running with Node-RED. So if you're totally lost and you need a stepping point, that's probably one place to go. There's other resources that I'm going to show you here on the slideshow. And we got a lot of slides to get through. This presentation is not only an overview, but it's also an overview on how to get started and the different screens and the different things that you need to do or see to get up and running. A couple of these screens are going to be a little deep dive, so be prepared, but also be aware that this presentation is on my YouTube channel. I did it in Orlando, I've done it here, and I've recorded it a couple of times. You can go into that and pause and edit, or not edit, but pause and rewind and go back through the slides. There's a lot more slides on the YouTube channel than there are here, so I just wanted to preference that. So anyway, let's get started. All right, first, what is Node-RED? It was developed by IBM in 2013. It was basically the Internet of Things program. You know, whenever your refrigerator wanted to talk to your washer and talk to your light switches, it was programmed for that type of stuff. We have basically ported it over to amateur radio. Basically anything that has got an input or an output on it can talk to Node-RED. We have figured all that stuff out. There are pre-programmed flows that you guys can load to get you up and running. It's built on Node.js, so there is a programming language behind it, but don't let that scare you. I did not go to college to be a programmer. I don't know the first thing about programming, but I was able to get this up and running. Pro tip, ChatGPT is perfect at you putting stuff into ChatGPT and it spitting out Node.js code. For Node-RED, you import it into Node-RED, it does all the heavy lifting for you. So if you get stuck on anything, get over to ChatGPT and start inputting stuff and building nodes. It's all web-based, so you don't have to get into a compiler. It's all web-based. And it runs on anything, Windows, Linux, Raspberry Pi. I run all my stuff on a Raspberry Pi. It's probably the best way to do it, so it runs 24/7. If you run it in a Windows environment, if you kill the DOS screen, it closes, and you have to re-enable it, or you have to rerun it. So running it on a Raspberry Pi, it doesn't take that much horsepower to run, is probably the best way to run it. And also, it hides all the high-level boilerplate code. Again, I was not a programmer, and I was able to figure this out. So if I can figure it out, you guys can figure it out too. So what can control Node-RED? So basically anything that has got an input or an output. Ethernet, serial, USB, Mosquito. I know that many things don't run on Mosquito, but if you've got something like a weather node or something that uses Mosquito, TCP, all native to Node-RED. Some of the things that we have controlled: amplifiers, tuners, rotators, antenna switches, relays. Basically anything in your ham shack that has an input or an output on it can be controlled by Node-RED. This is, you can see there's a dashboard. As long as you can get to a web page on the Raspberry Pi, it's on your internal network, you can control that device, right? It's a web-based browser system. So if you've got an Android tablet, an iPad, another computer, your ham shack computer, you can control all this stuff in Node-RED. So, why is that N hanging out there? I don't know why that N is hanging out there. Oh well. So why do you want to use Node-RED? So one of the things that you can do is monitor everything in one location, right? So in the contest station that I help build, we've got amps over here, we've got radios in front of us, we've got other things that are all over the rack. We bring up Node-RED on one screen, and I can tell exactly where all of my towers are pointed, where all of my antennas are switched on or off, the bandpass filters, the radios, everything. So you can monitor everything on one web page in one location. Eliminate errors. How many has switched to like 40 meters at 3 o'clock in the morning and your radio's still on 80 meters? I've done it. So one of the things that it can do is eliminate errors. You can put logic in it to alert you if things are not configured properly. Real-time feedback. The SWR meter on my radio is this small. The SWR meter on my external reader is way over in the corner. Now I have a piece of real estate on my screen that tells me what antenna I'm connected to, what my SWR is whenever I'm transmitting. All of that stuff is in real time, and I'm able to see all that on my screen. My eyes don't have to glance all over the place to find different information in my shack. And again, command and control, I think everybody understands that. One of the things that you can do is command and control your shack. Custom alarms. Again, if your SWR is over 2.0, you can have it alarm. We've got lightning alarms at the contest station, where if there's lightning within 50 meters, it alarms us to say, hey, there's lightning in the area. You might be contesting, not know where the weather is, and a storm comes in, it's going to alarm on where that storm is. All right, how does this all connect? So this is your main bus here. So this is like Ethernet, right? Here's your Raspberry Pi. All of these things connect different ways to the Raspberry Pi. So you've got serial, USB, Ethernet, you've got a relay down there. So all of these things are controllable through the different connection points through, Ethernet, serial, USB. So here are some examples of the different dashboards. Here's one that's got a rotor and a flex. Here's one that's got 2 rotors. Bunch of switches down there. You can do CSS and make it look pretty. Here's mine at the contest station. And you can do graphs. You can reboot and shut down your pies. Here's our different switches. Here are some LEDs to see if things are up and working on the network. Here's a 3-tower system here. Here's a satellite tracker. Here's a station that somebody put together that is fully remotable. Ours is fully remotable too, but I thought this was a cool setup here. This one's really neat. It's got all the slices on the flex, all of the rotators. It's got some spots down here that you can bring in. You can bring in DX spots down here in the bottom. Here's something that I wrote to bring in different spots on different telnet clusters. Brings in the POTA spots also. Here's some, you know how whenever you call CQ on the RBN and it maps you in different locations, but you have to go to another website to find out where you can be heard? This is a program that I wrote that it maps where you're actually heard. So you can do that locally. Here's a dashboard that I wrote to map all the POTA locations that are being spotted. Here is my contest dashboard that Connor down here in the front, KD9LSV, is helping me on. So basically this listens to all the UDP packets. Let me turn my radio off. It listens to all of the UDP packets that N1MM sends out and pull statistics on those UDP packets. Some other dashboard examples. So you can bring in graphics. Here is a real-time propagation map. Here's the recent or ongoing de-expeditions, a geochron, a heat map. So this is just a splattering of all the things that you can do in Node-RED. All right, so let's get into what is a node. So a node is basically the building blocks of Node-RED. These are different examples of nodes. You can see that there's a start-stop on some of these nodes. So this is a timestamp. This is basically what starts a flow, and we're going to get into that. Then you've got debug nodes. Debug nodes are your friend. They're the ones that get kind of information out to figure out how things are flowing within your nodes. You've got a function node here that is like you can free form code and put actual Node.js JavaScript in. You've got a switch node, a change node, a comment node, and then you've got these different nodes that are dashboard nodes. And basically they bring information in and they display that information on the dashboard. And you can see the junctions here. These are what tie all of these nodes together. They're called wires, and they are able to connect these different nodes and make what is called a flow. So these wires tie nodes together to produce flows. So you can see this is an inject node. Got a junction. You've got this wire that connects both of them together, and then you've got the debug. So this is just a basic hello world. Nodes have configurations. If you double click on the nodes, you're going to get a configuration page. Okay? This inject node, which basically starts a flow, it's got a timestamp, it's got other payloads that you can set here. It's basically going to start a flow. A debug is going to give you whatever is coming out of that node. So you can wire these in parallel, you can wire these in series. Basically, what this is telling you is all of these nodes have configuration pages. A switch node is like a big if-then-else node. A change node changes values from one thing to another. Maybe you're changing like a serial value from a text to a number, something that you would do common in ham radio. So those are probably the most common nodes that you're going to use. But the takeaway here is all of the nodes have some type of configuration in them that you can configure. All right, dashboard nodes. These are the nodes that put things on the dashboard and allow you to see what information you need to see. There's text nodes, there's buttons, there's gauges, and all of these have configurations, and they are able to put that stuff that you're trying to see on the dashboard. And there's a couple of examples, 3 examples there. So let's break some of this down. I know this is probably hard to see. So this is a common, what you'll see is a common flow, right? So this starts a flow. We're going to get some information from a serial device. This is a serial input node or a serial reading node, and it's connected to USB 0. So let's say that we've got a radio connected to this. And then out of that serial node is going to be a node that is going to take that serial information, and it's going to break out the band and the mode. So maybe it's going to send 80 meters, and it's going to say CW on it. So we need to break that information out, and then once we break that information out in this switch node, then it goes to another switch node that's going to look at that data, and it's going to break, this switch node is going to break it out by band, so maybe it says 80 meters, right? So then after it determines that that information, that payload is 80 meters, then it has a change node that sets the payload to 80 meters, maybe a text file, and then it sends it to the dashboard at the end, I can't point over there, as a text dashboard node, and it says 80 meters. Same thing with the mode, sorry. Had a brain fart there. Determine the mode, single sideband, CW, digital, and then it changes the mode to a text file based on the mode, and then sends it to the dashboard. So this is a common flow that you would see in Node-RED. Here's some Node-RED dashboards examples. This digital loggers device, if you want a first piece of controlling your ham shack, this is the thing to get. This digital loggers device is Ethernet based, it's Node-RED controllable, and you're able to turn on and off all of those switches, those 8 individual switches, through Node-RED. If I was to get one thing for my shack and start with a flow for Node-RED, it would be this digital loggers Web Switch Pro. They're about $180 on Amazon. That's where I would start. The second thing that I would get is this KM-Tronics relay. It's Ethernet based. There's flows that are already out on the web that you can load. All you have to do is change the IP address and you're up and running. So if you need a relay for Node-RED, this is something that I would probably get as your second device. It's about $90. Some more examples of a Raspberry Pi. So you can monitor your Raspberry Pi with Node-RED. Those dashboard nodes that are up, try not to fall off the stage, up there on the top, those are gauges. This is, of course, a chart down here. Those are buttons. And then down here at the bottom are text nodes that display different text on the dashboard. All right. Any questions so far? I didn't talk about questions, but yeah, you got a question here?
The Raspberry
Yes. So the question was, the Raspberry Pi is running and it's monitoring itself. Yes. There's exec nodes that you can ask through command lines, what's your health? How's your CPU doing? What's the temperature? And you can display that on the dashboard, yes. Yeah.
Is this like a net flow or a MS monitor type where you're taking flows from different devices?
No. The devices are dumb.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Just read serial data or you're just reading from
Yeah. The question was like MS Flow or a NetFlow or NetFlow is Cisco stuff, right? Yeah. All of the devices are dumb. So you're getting all of that information out of the Ethernet or out of the serial ports, and you are controlling or monitoring that information that's coming out of that device. Yes? Over here.
What knows the format of the control information for each individual type of device?
Ask that again.
How do you interpret and control the flow of information into and out of the third-party devices?
Those are either through serial nodes. So
Who provides an interface to a K4 or to a rotator or to spectrum display?
let's take the Elecraft example, right? So you get a programming cable or a RS-232 programming cable with your Elecraft device, right? You plug that into the USB port of your Raspberry Pi, and then you add a serial node to a flow. And if you look at the Elecraft manual, if you send an F to that frequent or that port, Elecraft is going to that Elecraft device is going to respond with a frequency. Okay? So what you would do is you would poll your Elecraft device every second and say, give me the frequency, give me the frequency, give me the frequency. Who tells Node-RED to do that polling? You do. Node-RED does.
So you tell it, FA semicolon means give me frequency.
No. Whenever I poll F, is it FA?
How do you know to do FA?
Oh, you have to know that. The programmer. You have to do some smarts to say, all right, FA is frequency, MA is mode. So you have to program the flow to go out and say, hey, give me the frequency, give me the mode from the radio. Does that make...
So the end user putting together this Node-RED system provides the interface.
You got it. Yes. Yeah.
the cat control on our radio.
Yeah, the cat control. Yeah. So, hang on. What? Yes. So, to add to your question, sir, is on most big manufacturers, the flows are already done. I'm going to show you where somebody has already done all the hard work for you. All you have to do is load Node-RED and import these flows, and you might have to modify some things, but I'm going to give you like over 300 examples where you can go out and download flows for Flex, Elecraft, Yaesu, ICOM, your rotators, your amplifiers, and all you have to do is import stuff and get up and running, and it's all done for you. Now, you can tweak it until your heart's content, right? But all that stuff is done for you because people smarter than me and a lot of people probably in the room have done all that work for you. All of the flows on the group's I/O are all open source. Or if you say, hey, I'm having trouble with the flow that I have provided or I have programmed, I guarantee you somebody will jump in and help you get that flow up and running. Is there another question down here? Yeah.
Going back to the flow, S-flow thing, if I recall right, it's been 10 wonderful years since I got out of IT. That sends that information asynchronously. You know, when it has a bucket filled with data or whatever, it'll send it out UDP. You have a UDP receiver that can take that and parse that
Yeah.
and that information. I wouldn't do it that way, but you could.
Yeah. The question is, basically, you could take whatever you bring into Node-RED, you can send out any other way that you want, right? So if you wanted to bring in all of the information from cat control of your Elecraft or your Flex or your ICOM, and you wanted to put it on the network as TCP, you could do that. Yeah.
And I just, you know, I ran Node-RED for a while, and I actually built a flow for my ICOM 746 using nothing more than the CT17 interface,
Yeah.
the cable, and serial in to my Pi using a dongle, and the information in the back of the manual that said what the commands are and what you get back.
Yeah.
And I was able to build a, you know, this is what it looks like. This is,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it's not as pretty as it is in Pi, but it has all the information there, switch bands, switch modes.
Yep. The key to this is once you put Node-RED into your shack, then other things it's a snowball effect, right? Now you want to control more and more stuff, and the Raspberry Pi only has 4 USB ports on it, right? Now you have to get a hub, and now you're plugging everything into USB ports, and then once you get all of that information into Node-RED, then you can send it anywhere on the network that you want, right? You could have literally a Node-RED system that is a remote system, and you can send that over the network and control your stuff across the world through the internet. I always say make Node-RED your primary hub, and then let that have the smarts to send all of the information. And you could even send it through Mosquito, you can send it through TCP, you can send it through UDP, all of that stuff, but make Node-RED your hub. You got a question real quick?
So there's these virtual COM ports when you have a logging program that wants to talk to your cat control device.
Yep, okay.
A whole bunch of different things like this that are all talking to your radio to get that information out of it. So they set up these virtual COM port services. How does this
Yep.
tie into
So his question was virtual COM ports, and your radio only has one connection, USB connection out, but you've got N1MM, your logging program, your rotor, your whatever the case may be, to send all that information out. The perfect example is you connect your radio into Node-RED, and then you send that information out, you duplicate that information, and you send it to all of the different things that need. Node-RED will handle, there's some tweaking there, but Node-RED will handle all of the pushing out to all the different applications and all the hardware that needs to see that information. Does that make sense? Yep. So again, make Node-RED your hub, and let it do this, have the smarts to push all the information. Okay, let's get programming. Raspberry Pi. Everyone almost in here had a Raspberry Pi. This thing will run on basically anything. I've run Node-RED on a Raspberry Pi Zero before. That POTA flow that I showed you that is mapping POTA locations, that is running at my house on a Raspberry Pi Zero. So it will run on basically anything. The nice thing is there is one install script. You get this from the Node-RED website. You type that in, it installs it. No user interaction. One script. That's all it needs. And that's on the Node-RED website. Installing on Windows is a little tougher. You got to go through some paces. All of that information is on the Node-RED website on how to install it on Windows. But, do I have a slide here? No, I don't have the slide. But the thing with Windows is after you install all of the NPM stuff, which is this line right here, you go to a command prompt and you type in Node-RED. That's going to bring up a DOS window. Remember DOS? It's going to bring up a DOS window, and it's going to run in the background. If you close that DOS window, it's going to close Node-RED, and it's going to shut Node-RED down. So do not close that DOS window in Windows. Okay? It stops Node-RED. Then you have to rerun it. Yeah, then you bring up another DOS window and just type in Node-RED. And it will, it'll run, but that's what you have to do.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I came in late. Are all these slides going to be available anywhere?
No, you're going to have to pay me for all of these slides.
That's fair.
How much money do you have? Because there was a CW key in the field market that I wanted. No, all of this presentation, I have a YouTube channel. This presentation will be on my YouTube channel. It is now, and even more in depth. I've got more slides on my YouTube channel. So just type in my call sign on my YouTube channel, or on YouTube. All right. So here is the nitty-gritty of Node-RED. These screens are the two screens that you're going to spend all your time and effort into, okay? There are two screens, the workspace and the dashboard. This workspace right here is where you're going to do all of your programming and all of your node flows, and this is where you're going to spend most of your time. Fall off the stage. This workspace URL is important. It's the IP address of your Raspberry Pi colon port 1880. Okay, that's how you get to the workspace. You can get there by localhost if your device is smart enough. I just go through the IP address of my Raspberry Pi. The next most important place is I get at least an email a week. I've got Node-RED up and working. Where is my dashboard? It's at /UI. So the same IP address, port 1880//UI. That's where your dashboard is at. Okay? The question is, will it enlist in all of the interfaces? It should. So your question is if a Raspberry Pi has virtual interfaces or other interfaces?
Some software you put it on and it will only list the local host until you tell it to go in and list all the interfaces.
Oh. Yeah, it'll list it from all of the interfaces. Yeah, it should. It should. Okay. Your workspace. These are tabs. Remember the days of Excel that had tabs? Does Excel still have tabs? Yeah, okay. So Excel has got tabs. You can organize your flows in different tabs. You've got your palette. Here's where all your nodes are at. These are drag and drop over to the workspace. This is called the main workspace. Then you've got your deploy menus. How many programmers we have in here? Got some programmers? The compile button. Remember? That's the compile button up there on the deploy, right? Sidebar menus. We're going to get into that. And then here's the sidebar. This is the information of what's going on with Node-RED is all in the sidebar. Main takeaway from this slide is all of your pretty colored nodes, they're your function nodes. They do work. They do some type of work. They get information out of a device. They manipulate data. They debug. They move forward through move data forward through the flow. The dashboard nodes, they're all in teal. All of those dashboards, you can't really tell, they're all kind of teal color. But all of those teal color nodes are your dashboard nodes. Those are the nodes that display data on the dashboard. Typically, they have a wire coming into them from the left-hand side, and then they stop because the data is on the dashboard. There is no data that goes out typically out of a dashboard node. That is the end of the line, typically. So let's focus on the sidebar here. So here I am in that workspace. I'm looking up in the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to talk about some of the different things that you'll see up there. There's a drop-down. This is the most important thing after you install Node-RED. So here's your deploy button. You want to come down here. Maybe I don't have it on this slide, but you'll want to come down here and you want to manage your palette. Remember we talked about the palette with all the nodes? You want to come down here, and I've typed in Morse code here. There's a user settings where you can come in and install nodes from the internet. People have pre-programmed nodes that you can download and install on your Node-RED system to manipulate data or connect to something. One of the first things that you need to do is update your dashboard and get the latest dashboard nodes from the internet. Typically what I do is I come down here to manage palettes, I type in dashboard right over here, and I install. Here I've typed in Morse code. It's a bad example. I've typed in Morse code. You can see that there's a Morse code node that somebody has programmed that you can download and install on your palette. One of the first things you want to do is type in dashboard here and install the latest dashboard nodes, and then there'll be an install or an update over there. You want to click the update or install and get those nodes up to date. For all of you advanced people out there that want to explore some other topics here, this is that sidebar menu, and all of these different icons have got different meanings. You've got a project info if you want to put this project on like GitHub, or to display information about the project, sorry. You've got a help. So every node has got a help, so you can click on the node and click on the help icon, and it should give you a input-output definitions of what it's looking for. You've got the Git repository. You've got a debug. So remember I was talking about those debug nodes? You can put a debug node on your workspace, wire it in, and then all of that information that is coming into that debug node is going to display on that sidebar whenever you click this button to show what's the debug that's coming out of those nodes. You've got a dashboard layout here. This is where we're going to configure the dashboard. I'm going to show you that in a minute. You've got some configuration node settings and some local and global variables. Kind of more advanced stuff over there, but just wanted to show that. I left this slide in because it's important. You will use, once you start developing your own flows and they're not working, or you import a flow and it's not working, debug nodes are your friend. I put debug nodes on a ton of stuff, and then you can turn them on and off by, remember I talked about those buttons on the side of on the right-hand side of the nodes? Those are debug nodes: spot payload, email out debug, announcement out debug. You can rename them so they mean something meaningful, and you can turn them on and off based on what you want to debug. And then the information is going to go into that debug sidecar that I showed you on the previous slide. All right, a few slides on the dashboard. How am I doing on time? 1:38. Thank you, sir. So this is the cool stuff. I really like doing the dashboard stuff. So remember that sidecar that we just talked about? So that square, that purple square, if you click on that, it's going to give you the dashboard layout. The thing to take away from here is you've got a layout tab, and you've got tabs, groups, and then nodes. Nodes, dashboard nodes go into groups, groups go into tabs, the hierarchy here. To make a new tab, you just type in the plus tab. To make a new group, you type in the plus group. And then to get to the layout, which I'm going to show you in a bit, you'll hit the layout button. So this is an example of my dashboard. I've got this E-layer command and control. I'm sure that you guys probably can't see that, but here are the tab names. So this hamburger menu up here, this has got, you can put many tabs on a menu. Here are my different tab names: E-layer, antenna switch, SHAT control, DX solar, DX cluster. Those names match up with the tab names: E-layer command and control, antenna switch, EEC SHAT control, DX solar, DX cluster. They match up here. Under E-layer command and control, I have groups: 2-post Pi, amp rack, 2-post power, amp rack power, flex power, web relay. Those are groups that I've created underneath the tab. Then whenever you hit the layout button in the dashboard, it's going to show you a GUI of all of your dashboard. This is the really cool part, is where you can drag and drop all of your dashboard nodes, and you can resize them and make them all pretty on your dashboard. So if you got a node that is too small because the text is too big, you can make it bigger, or you can drag it down, or you can manipulate it anywhere you want, and even you can drag it over to another group and get it to the point where it looks good and it's where you need it to be. So this is the GUI on the dashboard. A pro tip here is, if this stops working, start and stop Node-RED. Some kind of memory leak issue that's going on that doesn't allow you to drag and drop stuff. If that happens, just restart Node-RED, and it should clear itself up. So here is some dashboard groups side by side. So this is the GUI that you're going to see in that GUI layout. And then this is what you're going to see whenever you go to /UI. So this is a gauge. This is a memory use, disk usage, CPU. See how all this stuff lines up here? This is a CPU temperature chart. So this is your question over here, whoever had that question about monitoring a Pi in real time. You've got a CPU temperature chart. You've got this reboot button and shutdown button. See how this GUI relates to what you see on the dashboard? Same thing with this weather interface. So as you start building out your nodes in your dashboard, you can see how it's going to lay out with the GUI. Oh, there's that slide that I was missing. Node-RED, first to do after install. Again, go to your hamburger menu in your upper right-hand corner. Come down here to Manage Palette. Type in Dashboard. Node-RED-Dashboard. All of these dashboard nodes, these do not get installed by default. So whenever you install Node-RED for the first time, you got to install your dashboard nodes. That's how you do them. All right, a little housekeeping stuff, and then we're going to get to some more Q&A here. So the Node-RED website, nodered.org. They've got great documentation, actually really, really good documentation, and really good forums. If you don't have, so there's a Node-RED for ham radio forum. If you can't figure out, or you got something generic about Node-RED, these forums are great. They've got Node-RED experts in them. They're the place to go. Set up an account, ask your question. Some resources. So I've put some slides, or some links here. Of course, you can't click on them. But you've got the Node-RED website. They've got a YouTube page. It's a little boring. They actually show the back-end programming of Node-RED, so if you're into that, that's great. But they also have a Get Started playlist, which has got some good information. There's some really good YouTube channels. This Opto Video is a really good one. He's got a YouTube channel that has more process automation stuff, but he talks about dashboards and workspaces and things that relate to Node-RED and he's got a really good YouTube channel. So I suggest that you take a look at that. Steve Cope also does a YouTube channel that has great information on it. And this Iskander Varga, he's got a good YouTube. His is more geared towards home automation, but it's got some great stuff. There's a Reddit on YouTube. If you're a Reddit fan, you can go over there. I'm sorry, a Node-RED forum or a Reddit on Reddit. And then the holy grail of them all. If you're interested in pursuing this and get stuck, there's a Groups.io, Node-RED-Ham Radio. That's where we all hang out. There's probably, I want to say 2,500 people in the group so far. That's where you want to ask all your questions. That's where all the files are to import the nodes. Import all of the code to get you up and running. So that's where you probably want to start asking questions if you have questions about Node-RED. So now, where do you get your pre-programmed flows? There's a files section on Groups.io. This is where all of them live. So if, let's say you've got an ICOM 7300 and you want a flow for that. Well, let's say you've got a Yaesu rotor or an amplifier, an expert amplifier. Come over to this file section, and then you can search up here in the corner on your piece of equipment and see if there's a flow for it. If there's not a flow already on it, ask in the Groups.io if anybody's got a flow. There's a lot of people who don't share their flows but are willing to give their flows out if somebody asks. So if you get stuck and you don't want to program your own flow and you don't see that flow for your piece of device, I guarantee somebody probably has it in their repertoire and probably would, even if they don't put it out on the web for everyone to see, they're probably going to email you privately and say, here's my flow. Everyone on that forums is super nice and super helpful. I pulled this list probably a year ago. It has grown, but here are some of the pre-programmed flows that are already out there on the file sheet or the file website. Again, my YouTube channel, I've got a bunch of Node-RED stuff out there. I have a playlist that I put a Raspberry Pi in one hand and an SD card in the other, and we get you up and running with Node-RED. So if you need some help, go out there. But again, that Groups.io, Ham Radio for Node-RED website, or the Groups.io is the place to be. And again, copy your presentation on my YouTube channel. Got more information. If you get stuck, email me. But again, Groups.io. That's all I had. Thank you. Any questions? Right here.
Yeah, if I've got the Node-RED dashboard set up, what is the best way to operate remotely using Node-RED?
So his question was how to operate remotely through Node-RED. I will tell you how I do it. I've installed SSH on my Raspberry Pi. Okay, I've opened up another port through my router. Let's say it's 1234. Okay, I SSH into my Raspberry Pi, and then if you go, I use PuTTY, and you can, Connor, what is it reverse SSH where you tunnel all of the ports through? It's a type of port forwarding. Come and see me afterwards. But anyway, I set up an SSH tunnel from my local computer where I'm at to my Raspberry Pi, and then on my local computer, I type in localhost :1880, and anything that I send to localhost, it goes and hits the Raspberry Pi and sends it through the Raspberry Pi. So I bring up my Node-RED dashboard on my local computer by port forwarding through an SSH tunnel. That is the most secure. Other people, I'm sure that people are probably balking at, other people use a program called Tailscale. And they install Tailscale on their Raspberry Pi, and then they're able to install Tailscale on their local computer, and then once you log into Tailscale, you can see all of those devices and all of those computers that have the Tailscale service running, and then you can just web into your Raspberry Pi. Come see me afterwards. Over here.
So two questions, mainly on performance. How many nodes can you set up and possibly monitor? And then if that's right to the Raspberry Pi, isn't that going to burn out that SD card after a while?
Yep. So the question was, how many nodes can you put on a Raspberry Pi, and is the SD card going to burn out? I have probably, I don't know, how many nodes do we have on our Pi? Probably 500, maybe 1,000? Something, yeah, something like that. Yeah. No. We're not pulling sources. That's just nodes. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We probably have 10. Yeah, we probably have 20 USB devices that we plug into the Raspberry Pi, and they're all pulling that stuff. Yeah, plus the networking stuff and some other stuff. But we probably have, conservatively, I think we have probably 750 nodes on our Raspberry Pi. And then the SD card, yeah. The nice thing about Node-RED is you can export everything out through JSON. So I just go in and I make a backup every month. And then so if the Raspberry Pi takes a crap, I just load Node-RED back into it, load the JSON back into it, I'm up and running. Yep. Is Node-RED being actively developed? Yes, there is Nick O'Leary in Ireland who actively develops it. Yes. Yes. No, they're all good. He talked about Node-RED and exporting from Linux to Windows and Windows to Linux. Nope. All right, that's it. Anybody come up and ask my question, and I'll get to you guys. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.